You feel good?
And remarkably, the answer might actually be yes.
That's the goal. You might want to live long, but even more important, you want to live well.
So earlier on, I was in the eating room where the speakers are, and I introduced myself to a couple of the speakers there, and it was a bit weird because I didn't catch their name, but they said, I'm loneliness, or they said suicide, and the other one said, I'm anxiety. So I said, I'm loneliness. So we're sort of thrilling three people to have for dinner, I think, sort of like the sort of apocalypse, something like the rise of the apocalypse, have us for dinner, pretty awful. Anyway, yes, just going to ask you all a question. So how many of you often feel lonely? Put your hand up if any of you often feel lonely. I would say that's probably about 5%. So Lifeline did a survey last year with 3,000 Australians, and it said that 60% of Australians often feel lonely. So either you can't be bothered to put your hand up because you're exhausted after all that dancing. I have to say I was. I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm so glad I'm out there. Or you're embarrassed about it and you don't want to admit it in front of your friends, and that's fine too. But I thought it was interesting, that BBC survey called The Anatomy of Loneliness. 55,000 people responded. It's the biggest survey on loneliness ever. I do feel lonely quite often. I got divorced 9 years ago. I was going to say by accident. I didn't see it coming, which always sort of makes you it's always odd when I say that, because I didn't see it coming, it sort of happened. But it always feels like I sort of put on the wrong pair of socks or something one day and went, oh, look, I'm divorced, blimey, how did that happen? Anyway, it did happen, but I didn't expect to be alone at this stage in my life. And I was looking through my notes and I was preparing for this, and I saw in my notes it said, 40% of lovely people are married. I thought, that's a really odd thing to write, 40% of lovely people are married. Of course, it's my bad writing, lonely. 40% of lonely people are married. So I've been lonely in a relationship, and it is one of the worst places to be. It is one of the worst types of loneliness, so I've done that for you. I've been your crash test dummy, so I've tried out a lot of things to overcome loneliness myself and tackle it head on. And I tell you, just don't bother going on Google, because the internet for loneliness is about as much use as a chocolate teapot. There is nothing of any value on the internet about loneliness. And what most of it is about are the same facts that they just regurgitate over and over again. It's a sort of cheap sort of bait, soundbite bait that journalists have taken. But given this is a sort of personal motivation self-help group, I will quickly tell you what the internet says about loneliness that's repeated over and over and over again. So the cliche number one, it's the silent epidemic. Ooh. It's the silent epidemic that's sweeping the world. And there is certainly more loneliness reported than there ever has been, whether it's people feel less embarrassed about it. There are certainly more people living alone. It's the fastest growing demographic in the world, people living alone. So 1 in 4 households in Australia are people living by themselves. So the silent epidemic. None of these are helpful, so I am going to go through them quite quickly, and we'll come on to solutions, things, practical things you can do, because the theory is just not, it's just theory, isn't it, really? And it makes me cross. These make me cross. I get crankier as I get older, as my friends will attest. And things like this it's just lazy journalism. There's a whole conundrum, the more connected we are, the less connected we are. And, the more we're connected, but we still are unfulfilled, we feel isolated. And that's true. And as I travel around a lot, I see over and over again people, it's so sad. At breakfast, fathers and sons, they're both just looking at their phones. I see families of 4. I was last week in Far North Queensland. That's a weird place, isn't it? Anyway, separate conversation. I was in Far North Queensland in a very posh sort of eco-lodge. And this American family, it would have cost a fortune for them all to be there. And they're all just looking at their phones. It's like, put them down. Look at where you are. You're in the middle of the Daintree. There's a tree kangaroo over there. I thought that was a joke. I thought that's something you say to English people. I've seen the tree kangaroo joke. But it is a thing, actually. I saw one. Who knew? But they miss the tree kangaroo because they're all looking at their phones. It's so sad. The other cliche, this comes up over and over again. It says a sort of mini crime wave among elderly Japanese people, Japanese pensioners, because they're all getting arrested because they want to go to jail rather than be by themselves. And so you'll see that in the papers a lot on the internet. And we know that there are, joking aside, there are severe mental and physical ramifications of loneliness. And it's equivalent, you'll see here, to 15 cigarettes a day, smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's worse for your health than obesity. It's worse for your health than being an alcoholic. It inhibits your immune system. You have a big chance of dying earlier. You know, all of these statistics are out there over and over again. It just pisses me off. You know, if you do feel lonely, you want to find ways of overcoming it and bucking the system a bit. You know, just reading these over and over again isn't really very helpful, I don't think. It has actually gone big time onto the health providers' radar and also insurers' radar, the whole awareness around loneliness. So, of course, inevitably, researchers are trying to find a pill right now as we speak to overcome loneliness. Really? Anyway. So in the absence of the pill, I'm going to give you what worked for me. Often they say, a lot of articles too, talking about the different types of loneliness that you can encounter and how it really feels to be lonely. You know, I know what it feels like. I don't need someone to tell me. And the people who write it clearly haven't been lonely. Because it's like, you know, I just want to nail the octopus of loneliness to the wall and sort it out. And these people just, it's very superficial what you read. I know what it's like to when you're in day surgery and they say, give us a name of someone to pick you up. And, you know, you have to think twice. You know, when you feel you're no one's priority, that you feel you're excluded from some things, you feel different. You feel very alone. And you do sometimes wonder if you just disappeared in a puff of smoke, who would miss you, or certainly miss you for a couple of days. You know, that's what feeling lonely is like. I know what it feels like. I don't need anyone to tell me. So we're going to move on from that. Oh, this is Eleanor Rigby. This is a statue of Eleanor Rigby. One of the things I do try and make a big effort to, is not to show that I'm lonely or talk about it or appear lonely. And Sophia Loren was asked how she managed to stay beautiful since, you know, and she said, apart from spaghetti, which she did say as an answer, yes, go Sophia. She also said she doesn't make any noises. She doesn't make any old lady noises. So when she gets up, she doesn't go, oh. And when she gets into bed, she doesn't go, oh. She doesn't make any noises. She doesn't make any old lady noises. And I thought, good on you, Sophia. So I try not to make any lonely signs or symbols. I don't show anyone. I try not to, you know, I don't walk around like she's got a bag over her head. You know, I don't do that. I don't pick up rice from churches, none of that. So I think it's important to also not feel, you know, and get yourself out of that way. As I say, Google is absolutely hopeless. I just thought out of interest, I'd look at the top 12 images on Google Images for loneliness, and here they are in all their cliched glory. Turns out we're crepuscular, and that means we've got something in common with kangaroos. So we're creatures of the dawn and dusk. We favor beaches, sunsets, and hoodies. Who knew? Those are the real 12 from Google. Piers. There's something about piers. Don't go to a pier by yourself. I don't know. It just doesn't. I know. Weird. As I said, good. Just don't bother with Google for this. There are two things I'm going to talk about. One is the thinking side of loneliness, and the other is the doing side of loneliness, because in a nutshell, doing something is the enemy of loneliness. Doing anything, proactivity is the enemy of loneliness. But you have to also get your head sorted out as well. So the thinking side of it, loneliness is a feeling. It's like a canary in a coal mine. It's a message for you that something has to change. And it is a real thing, but it's also a subjective thing. You bring it on, you can push it away. It's not to say it doesn't feel terrible, but it will pass. It will pass. It's completely normal to feel lonely. Everyone feels lonely at some stage or another. And it shows, you know, we are hardwired to be a pack animal. And it shows that, you know, we're still connected to that we are still wanting company of some sort. This is an elephant called Hanako, who was 2 years old when she was given by the Thai government to the Japanese government in 1949. And this is like my slide 11 for the... Anyway, she was not as bad as, it's not a refugee, it's an elephant, but anyway. She died last year, aged 69. Never saw another elephant in her life after she moved to Tokyo. She lived in this concrete cage, concrete enclosure in Tokyo, and she was called the loneliest elephant in the world. So however lonely you are, you're not Hanukkah lonely, so that's a good thing. Be compassionate towards yourself, be kind to yourself. I think we often, we're really, really hard on ourselves. You know, you have to love yourself fiercely. You really do. If you would treat yourself the way other people, if someone else treated yourself the way that you do sometimes, you would think they weren't a very good friend. So be kind to yourself. Self-worth isn't connected to anyone else. It's something you do by yourself. One way of growing in self-worth is by learning something, achieving something, doing something that you finish. I think it can be taught. As I think resilience can also be taught. It's hard, but I think you can teach yourself. And if all else fails, you put on an armadillo suit of armor, and you just get out there. So be an armadillo, and reframe loneliness as solitude. Solitude as loneliness's kinder, younger sister. So with loneliness, you're really by yourself, and solitude, you're really with yourself. And I think you can learn to enjoy solitude and invite it into your life and sit with it and become friends with it. I'm going to move on to doing now, quickly moving on. As I said, doing something is the enemy of loneliness. Absolutely. Being proactive is the enemy of loneliness. You have to get out and do something. And this is not about other people. This is about learning to enjoy time with yourself. And one way of doing it, I love the word hobby. See, I found this great slide. It's a very sort of 50s, 60s word to me, hobbies. So don't be afraid of getting older. Be afraid of getting boring. Do hobbies. You know, find something that you enjoy, or either something new or something old that you used to enjoy that you don't really do so much anymore, or don't do at all. Sort of redo it, rethink about hobbies and interests. Basically, you want something that you can immerse yourself in. And you look up after a couple of hours, you had no idea where the time has gone. If, like me, you're a bit hit and miss on this, so I've tried lots of things. There's the watercolors. It's in the last year. I did a travel sketchbook thing on yesterday. Me making salami. Me with my Chinese water brushes. Me making a wooden spoon. There it is, just proving, just saying. Making a wooden spoon out of a log. $175, in case you're wondering. Most expensive wooden spoon. You see, I haven't used it. Anyway. Also, meetups are really good. Sydney, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetups, and you will find something that is your interest. There's night snorkeling. There's board games for gay people. I mean, who knew? Everything is in there. Also, learning things on YouTube. YouTube is fantastic. You can learn everything on YouTube. This is something they have in America. This is Chuck MacArthur, who's the people walker. And he was an out-of-work actor in LA, of course. And he came up with the idea of being a people walker, which I think is such a great idea. So people ring him up and he'd take them off for walks. And now it's become a company. And it's a franchise now in America. Just one of you, honestly, one of you should set it up here. You're going to make a fortune. Chuck's made a fortune doing it. So he vets people, and they take people out on walks, and people pay them to take them for a walk, like you would a dog. You know? But it's a way of overcoming loneliness. People who are lonely go and they say, well, I'm going to meet one of Chuck's boys at 8 o'clock, and off you go. Well, ladies. Another thing is just getting out of the house, just getting out and about. This is a beautiful Aboriginal rock carving. It's at Bondi Golf Course. And I make it a point to get out and see my neighborhood and learn about my neighborhood. This is dumplings. If you're very nice, I'll tell you where they are. It's in Chinatown, my favorite place. You know, I get out and I go exploring by myself. This is me by myself at Taronga Zoo, feeding the giraffes. Something that they will say to you on the internet also is get a pet. I'm in two minds about that because I think it's very patronizing to say to someone who's lonely, get an animal because pets don't speak, saying, despite what the internet will tell you. That was my dog. My dog died at the end of last year, but that's Rory, my dog, and he was lovely. But we didn't discuss Nietzsche. We didn't do anything else untoward. He's lovely, but he's not a person. I think it's very patronizing to assume that an animal can replace a person when it comes to loneliness. But they can they can force you to get out and about. So I actually made that outfit for Rory. It's God's way of telling me to get a job. So Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock Bones, and he won the competition, just saying. But I met the lady who ran the dog show, and we've become friends. Someone and I, our dog leads entwined, and I was taking him for a walk, and we become friends. So it's a great way of meeting people. Marie Kondo your friends, have joy in chucking things out, have joy in going through your friends. Drains and radiators, my friends, drains and radiators. Drains bring a little ray of sleet into your lives. The ones who say we just sit around talking about how lonely we are, they've got to go. I won't go on about that, but it's really important to have friends who will be there for you, but you need to handpick them. Don't pick the ones who say, I'm so busy, I can't talk to you. And also don't always have all the single friends always. You can't have them being your sort of emotional Sherpa. But look carefully at your friends. Make new ones. There was a book on relationships in America called How to Improve Your Relationship Without Having to Talk About It that did really well. And you sort of think, I wish I could get over the loneliness without having to make new friends. But it's very possible to do. I've done it at college. I've done it through other friends. I've done it at my local cafe. I've done it with the dog, all sorts of things. It's very possible to do. Helping others. This is friends. I'll go through this. Helping others, I work with OzHarvest, and I go through the breakfast boxes, picking out food that hasn't been used, and we give it to people who need to eat it. But find something that you're interested in. There's always something that you can do to help others, and it really, really helps with loneliness. I become friends with the lady I'm on the shift with. Lonely-proof your home. Find nice things to put around you. I have candles. I write things down in my book. I find TV series, radio things that I'm keen on. Your books, your paintings all become sort of friends to you. And there is a way, have pictures of your friends around you to lonely-proof your home. This is about eating, being careful eating by yourself, look after yourself. Have wearable things to protect you against loneliness, like a talisman. I've got 3 of them on right now. Just saying. I'm just wrapping up now, but find out what triggers you, what triggers your loneliness. To me, it's arriving at an airport, not having anyone to meet me. Like the beginning of Love Actually just upsets me so much because it just, I'm never going to have anyone to meet me. So my friends for my birthday a couple of years ago they arranged to meet me at the airport when I came back from trips, which was lovely. 4 saddest words in the English language, apart from Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, are Christmas dinner for one. So it's going to happen. So prepare for it. That was my Christmas dinner for myself last year. You know that your birthday is going to come. I have my friends over for my birthday now because a few years ago, not a single person in the world remembered it was my birthday. I don't expect my friends to. I have 2 children. So now I make sure that I cover myself. I have things ahead in my diary. This is a marionette. I'm making a marionette thing, whatever, later on in the year. I've got Elton John tickets. I have things to look forward to. Going on a hiking holiday. There are 2 words that don't belong together. But I have things in the future to look forward to. So make sure you have, magazine subscription even, little things that you get every month. Also, the last thing is really challenge yourself. Have a big enterprise. So I did reinvent myself as a tour guide last year. These are some of my lovely Americans in Uluru. I'm doing accreditation for Uluru Katajuta, an extra exam for tour guides. They're lovely. They ask me questions like, can you see the moon from Australia? Who knew? This is the house I'm going to live in France in a couple of years' time. They don't know that. The owners, it's an Airbnb. I'm going to take it over. It's an Airbnb. So I'm going to be living there for a couple of months, and I'm doing French lessons. Have something big to work towards. Those are the doing things. So love yourself fiercely, be proactive, and the future isn't a place you go, it's a place you create. It's really up to you. That's all. Thank you very much.